Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Noah here from 6Flow Automations, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to pass dynamic variables to your AI voice agent for inbound calls. You've probably seen this done already for your outbound agents, where the AI knows a bunch of information about the person they're calling, like their name, their business, their industry, and much more. But what happens when your outbound agent makes a call to someone who does not pick up the phone and then decides to call back? That's exactly what we're going to be covering in this video. So if you guys find content like this useful or want to support the channel, hit that like button, drop a sub, and let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so the tools we're going to use for this tutorial is going to be Retell AI, which is going to be the main platform we use to build the AI voice agent, and we're going to be using n8n as the backend automation platform. Now for this tutorial, I'm going to be building off the previous example I did in one of my earlier videos where I built an outbound agent that sends pre-call SMSs to the user. So if you guys want to watch that video first to get an understanding of how that process works, I'll link the video up above, and I'll also just provide a quick summary on what we did in that video so you have a bit of background about the example we're going to use. So as you can see, I've pulled up a Google Sheet that was the database we used in the previous video to store all the information about the users that were being called. And this is for a recruitment agency, 6Flow Nursing, where we enter in the current job title of the user and the new job opportunity, as well as their job description and of course their name and phone number. Now the scenario we're going to play out for this video is if we enter a user that the outbound agent makes a call to, but then that person doesn't answer the call because they're too busy, but they do decide to call back. Now in a situation like this where the user calls the agent back, the agent is going to have no information about who is calling. So for example, in the welcome message, we had written, "Hi, this is Sarah from 6Flow Nursing. Am I speaking with user underscore first underscore name?" Now with the outbound agent, that was treated as a dynamic variable. So rather than saying user first name, it's going to say, "Am I speaking with Noah?" But if that user calls back and the agent has the same opening message, it's going to literally say, "Am I speaking with user underscore first underscore name?" which is no good. Not to mention, during the conversation, we have a bunch of dynamic variables like the first name, the job title, job description, job opportunity, that the agent has no idea what that actually is. So this is exactly what I'm going to show you how to fix. How can we have dynamic variables being passed to an inbound agent? Like, how does that make sense? When someone calls a number, it has to trigger the automation just to pull in that data from the Google Sheet. So with an outbound call, we can trigger the automation prior to the call, grab all the data from the Google Sheet, and then make the call by sending all that data to Retell AI. But when you're dealing with an inbound call, there's no automation, there's no webhook, right? The user calls that number is connected to your Retell agent, and that's it. So to answer the question you are all wondering right now, the way we do this is by using an inbound webhook that Retell has built into their platform. An inbound webhook means that you're connecting a webhook URL to a certain phone number in your Retell account. And of course, that phone number is going to be connected to a specific inbound agent. So really, you're connecting the inbound webhook to an inbound agent. Now, what this does is when that number receives a call, prior to the agent answering it, it's going to call that webhook first. Once that webhook receives the signal from the agent or from Retell AI, it's then going to process some information and use a respond to webhook node that's going to send information back to the agent, allowing it, one, to answer the call, and two, access to certain information within a database outside of Retell AI. So now that you have a bit of an understanding of how this process actually works, let's go ahead and set it up. So the first thing you're actually going to need to do is create your agent, of course, then we're going to publish it and connect it to an inbound phone number. So now that we have it connected to an inbound phone number, we can of course connect it to the same phone number for outbound calls. And by doing this, we now have one agent that performs both as an inbound and outbound calls, and both has dynamic variables, so it has information about the user regardless of if they're calling the agent or the agent is calling them. So now we're going to go back into the homepage in Retell AI, and we're going to click on the phone numbers tab. Now you want to select the phone number that you just connected to your inbound agent, and right here is the exact setting we're looking for. You can see your inbound agent, you can see the exact agent that you just connected, and you will see an option that says add an inbound webhook. We're going to enable this, and right here is exactly where you would paste the webhook URL that we're going to go get from n8n right now. All right, so as you can see, I'm in n8n. We're just going to simply add a webhook trigger, just like that. We'll switch the method to post real quick, and we're going to switch to production, and we're going to copy this URL. Then we'll head back into Retell AI, and we will paste the URL right here. Perfect. Now, just to reiterate, when the agent receives a call from someone, the first action that's going to be done is Retell AI calling on this webhook. So it's going to call this webhook. n8n is going to run the automation, send information back to Retell AI, allowing the agent to actually pick up the phone and answer the call. So that being said, the next step is to actually go into n8n and complete the rest of the workflow. All right, so we're back in n8n, and the workflow is going to be very similar to the one we built out for the outbound agent, but this time, rather than making the outbound call using the HTTP node, we're going to use a respond to webhook to allow the agent to answer the call. But before we do that, we first have to pull in the data from the Google Sheet so that we can send the dynamic variables to the Retell AI agent. So that being said, the next node we're going to add is going to be the Google Sheet node, and you can go ahead and choose Get Rows, and then connect your credentials if you haven't already done so. Then just choose your sheet, and this node is set up. All right, so the next node we're going to need to add is going to be the filter node. The reason for this is because we need to make sure that we're only keeping the data that matches the specific user that is calling. Because if you don't filter all the extra data out, we're going to be sending the agent data on every single user in the Google Sheet, which we definitely do not want to do because it's not going to perform correctly. So we need to make sure we're only keeping data that has the phone number that's coming into the agent equal to the phone number that is in our Google Sheet. But before we actually add the filter node, it's best for us to pull in some sample data because we're going to need data from the webhook to match to the Google Sheet. So it's always easiest to just run the workflow real quick, pull in some sample data so that we can build out the rest of the workflow smoothly and then give it a final test at the end. All right, so because we've already published the agent to a Twilio number, all I need to do to run this execution is make sure the workflow is active, and then I'm going to call that Twilio number on my phone. And like I keep saying, it's going to trigger this automation before the agent actually picks up the phone. So if I head over to executions and I give the number a call, we should see it being run.
Hi, this is Sarah calling from Sixth Flow Nursing.
And there it is. So I'm just going to tap on this execution and we will copy it to editor so that we have some data to work with. Now let's go ahead and add the filter node. So I'm going to click the plus, I'll add the filter node. And what we're going to do is under webhook, we're going to be looking for a field that says from number. And you can see that it's listed right here under call_inbound. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag that into value 1. Now for value 2, that's going to be coming from the Google Sheet. And that's going to be the column that is listed user phone number. And because we don't actually add the extension within the Google Sheet, we're just going to manually add that so that these two values are now equal. Now we can go ahead and exit the filter node. And the final node that we need for this workflow is going to be the respond to webhook. Now remember, whenever you're using a respond to webhook, you have to remember to switch the response section in your webhook trigger to using respond to webhook. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we will add a new node, and this is going to be respond to webhook. Just like that. And then we're going to switch the respond with section to JSON. All right, so now I'm going to switch the response body to expression, and let me just expand this for you guys. I will just copy all this, delete that, and I'm going to paste in the template that matches the specific dynamic variables that we're using for this example. Let me get rid of this comma. Never have a comma at the end of your JSON schema. So as you can see, we're going to be sending specific dynamic variables that match the Google Sheet and match the variables that we have in the universal prompt within the AI voice agent, that being the user's first name, the job title, the user's job description, and the new job opportunity. So by using these dynamic variables within the n8n respond to webhook node, we are sending this information to the Retell AI agent so that the agent has access to the dynamic variables, aka the dynamic information for whoever is calling this agent back. So that wraps up the n8n workflow build for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this. I'll exit this. I'm going to unpin this. I will give it a save, and now we're ready for our final test. All right, so just to recap, this is the information I've inputted as the test example. I have my own phone number. First name is Noah. Job title is a nurse. My current job is I'm a nurse at a retirement home. And the new job opportunity that the agent is going to offer me is a nurse at the Toronto General Hospital. So to give this a test, I'm going to go ahead and run the outbound with SMS workflow that we made in the previous video. So the agent is going to call me, and then I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to answer it. And then I'm going to call the agent back, and we'll see if the dynamic variables were passed to that inbound agent. All right, so let's give it a run. All right, there's the text. Okay, here's the call. I'm gonna go ahead and just decline it. Now, let me head back into the other workflow. Let's head over to executions and let's see what happens when I call this person back. I'm gonna call it back. All right, there's the execution that came in. Hello.
Hi, is this Noah? My name is Sarah, and I'm calling from Sixth Flow Nursing. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I see you're currently working as a nurse at a retirement home, and I actually came across a new opportunity that I think could be a great fit for you. Do you have just a minute for me to share a bit about it?
All right, guys, and there you have it. You now know how to successfully pass dynamic variables to your inbound voice agent. Again, this is a super useful addition to add on to any of your outbound agents, just in case someone misses a call and calls back. It's a really good fallback, especially if that person is in your database. The agent is going to know who is calling and still have access to all the information from the dynamic variables. I'll be dropping this workflow along with the voice agent build in our school community. So if you guys want direct access to it, hit that link in the description to join our school community and learn a lot more about voice agents, building them and selling them and marketing them. Other than that, I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. If you did, hit that like button, drop a sub. It would mean a lot to me and it would mean a lot to the channel. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.